Alright, so I'm going to give you guys this file. This is a rig of Mr. Norman here, and this is a character rig. This is kind of typically what these things look like. They have a set of controls on them. You can't see the controls right now because they're hidden, but I'm going to make those pop up, and the way you do that is you come down here to the Viz control, and you click that, and then over on the right hand side is these attributes. And what I'm going to turn on right now is the face control all the way down to the hip control. And actually, I'll just go ahead and turn all these on. So I'm going to hit 1 enter. I shift selected these, and I'm going to hit 1 enter, and then as you can see now all of his controls come on here. And these controls, every single one of these, you can rotate. And if I come down to the feet, right now, I can grab these controllers and I can rotate the feet. But I want to change the way that this guy works. If I click his hips and move his hips, you see his whole body moves. But if I come over here and I shift select these EXs, and I change FK, IK only, not these other ones, just this one, to 1, enter. It changes his foot controls, and I can grab those, and as you can see now, I move them, and when I grab his hips and move him around, his feet stay sticky to the ground. That's what we want. We want sticky feet, okay? And so what we're going to do with this guy is we are going to make him run. And the first thing I'm going to do is come down here to my animation settings and turn this on to make sure it's on real time and save. And then I'm also going to turn on auto key. And auto key is a way that if I have a key set here, so the way that animation works is you have a timeline, and basically if I set one pose here, I just hit S to set that key. And then I go to like frame 5, and then I rotate again and hit S, or as I didn't have to do that because I had auto key on. As you can see, what it does is it sets that over time to animate, right? Pretty simple concept. Animation is just a timeline and keys. So I'm going to right click on that timeline and I can delete that. So that's a pretty simple concept for animation. So I'm going to change this to a, let's see, how I want this a pretty fast cycle. I'm going to make this a 20 frame cycle. So I'm going to make this a 20 frame cycle, basically because I can split it in half and in quarters. And I'll show you why here in a minute. But this is going to be a looping run animation, and so the first frame and the last frame will always be the same, and the middle frame will be the reverse of that, and then you'll have 5 and 15, which will be the in-betweens. Alright, so if I was going to do a run animation, the first thing I'm going to do is put this guy into a really dynamic pose. Okay, so I'm just going to grab his hips here, and I'm going to pull him down, and then I'm going to grab this foot controller and move it back. And I always like to think about like when I animate characters, like how I move as a person. Like my first step, I usually take, I'm a right-handed and right-footed person, so I'll usually take like a right step first. So actually in this case, I'm going to move the character back. His left foot back, so he's taking a right foot step forward. And when I move it back, you'll notice he automatically goes up on his toes. And that's because the rig automatically does that. But what we want to do is we want to purposely make him go up on his toes, because when we animate, we want to have control over everything that we do. We don't want anything to be like automatic. So what I'm going to do is I have these attributes over here, heel roll and ball roll, and you can use those. If I click on the attribute here and then middle mouse click and hold and drag left and right, you can see his toe will do that sort of stuff. But I'm going to use ball roll and have him roll his ball up on his toe like this, okay? And that way his knee's got a little bend in it. And I'll actually pull that back just a little bit more. And remember, with animation, the more dynamic your pose is, the more dynamic your pose is, the cooler your animation's gonna look. Okay, so if you have really boring poses, your animation's gonna be really boring. Okay, so I'm just gonna rotate this guy forward. I got the feet pose. I'm gonna rotate his hip forward, and then I'm gonna shift select his spine here, the 4 spine controls, and rotate that forward to give him a little bend. And then I'm gonna shift select his neck and rotate his neck up so he's looking where he's going. Because when you're running, it'd be really handy if you could like see where you're going, so you don't trip and fall over stuff. And I'm just gonna make some quick adjustments to these to give it a dynamic feel. All right, so that's kind of the first pose I got there. And I'm gonna make sure I'm on frame 0 here. And the next thing I want to do is pose his arms, and his eyes are in the back of his head here, so I'm just going to grab his eye controller and pull it out. And as you can see, as I pull his eye controller out, his eyes will follow that. Set a key at 0. And what I'm going to do is I can rotate his arms down one at a time, or I can rotate them 2 at a time. And I'm going to rotate those down here in a second, but first I'm going to pose his hands. And again, when I run, I like to have my hands in fists. So I'm going to select the 4 upper fingers. And again, just like the feet, I'm going to shift select these 3 attributes, base, mid, and tip, and middle mouse drag, and his fist will close. Then I'm going to do the thumb. And the thumb I'll do a little differently because it's a little odd. So I'm going to do the tip, then the mid. I don't really want to play with the base too much. I just want kind of a nice tight fist, alright? And the cool thing about this rig is you can actually copy from left to right. So what I'm going to do is select all the fingers, hit S to set a key on frame 0, right click copy, then come over here to the other hand and shift select these, or not shift select, but just select these, right click, paste, and lo and behold, we have a fist on this side. Then I'm going to go back and shift select the shoulders, rotate those down to not completely 90 degrees, but just kind of by his sides, because he's going to rotate those when he walks. And with arms, especially when you're rotating them, it's always good to use the exact handle. You don't want to rotate in here because, as you can see on the right hand side, it's rotating in all axes. We only want it to rotate in one axis here. So when a character runs or walks, the arms will always do the opposite of what the leg is doing. So I'm just going to rotate his arm forward here. So the right arm will be doing what the right leg is doing. So the right leg is going forward, so the right arm will go forward. I'm just going to put him in a kind of a jogging pose here. And I'm not really trying to do anything specific, just have it look cool and dynamic. This one again. This one will go back because the left leg is back. Alright, so he's hauling ass. Looks good. So that will be our first pose. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is select all the keys, select all the controls, and I will hit S on frame 0. And what that's going to do is that's going to set a key for all controllers on frame 0. Then, since this is a looping animation, when when it gets to the end, it's going to pop back to 0. So I need the last frame to be the same frame as 0. So I just, with all these controllers selected and all the keys set on them, I'm going to copy, move to frame 20, and paste. Alright? So now we have the first frame and the last frame that are the same. Now, the middle frame, frame 10 here, is going to be the opposite of this pose. So the right arm's going to do what the left arm's doing, and the right leg will be doing what the left leg is doing. And again, what's really cool about this rig is you can copy from left to right. So I'm just going to select the foot controller, and I'm going to copy frame 0, then select the other foot controller, move to frame 10, and paste. Then select the other foot controller, copy that, select the other foot controller, move to frame 10, and paste. So now you can see they alternate. I've just copied the pose from left to right, and I'm going to do the same thing for the arms. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to select the shoulder, shift select the elbow, copy, select the other shoulder, shift select the elbow, and paste. Select the shoulder, select the elbow, copy, shift select the shoulder, shift select the elbow, and paste. So now he alternates. Something is jacked up with my arm there. So I've got a problem here. It looks like he's only supposed to be rotating. He's not supposed to be doing that. So I'm going to fix that really quick. Okay, I only want it rotating on the Z-axis. So I'm going to select these two shoulders, open the animation graph editor. And this is, we're going to get to this here later, but I'm just going to fix this real quick. So anything that's not Z-axis is going to go away. So I'm just going to delete these. And so this way, whoa. Why are you doing this to me? Maybe I have to do those one at a time. Okay, so I've got a problem here with the shoulders, and I'm just going to manually fix this issue. Something got jacked up, and I don't know how. All right. Alright, so we're going to reset these shoulders. You got to be really careful with the arms and only rotate in one axis. And why is it doing that? There we go. Good enough. Okay, not sure what exactly happened there, but... Alright, so we got him running. So now the next thing we want to do is the the in-between poses. So as you can see, we've done 0, 10, and 20. Now we need to do 5 and 15. Alright? So as he starts in this pose, he's lunging forward, so his right leg needs to come down and plant on the ground. So what I'm going to do is go over here to my translate Y and set that to 0, and set heel roll and ball roll to 0, so his foot's now on the ground. And I'm going to move this forward and then rotate heel roll up so he lands on his heel. And then the next pose for this foot, I'm going to rotate this back and just pull this up so he's kind of like kicking out as he lands. And then I'm going to copy this pose. Again, this is going to be the opposite on 15. Right leg will be doing what the left leg is doing and vice versa. So I select one leg and copy. Select the other leg, move to frame 15, and paste. Then with that leg selected, move to frame 5, copy. Move to the other leg, move to frame 15, and paste. So now he's actually starting to take some steps. Okay? But he's running on his heels, so we need to snap those toes down. So I'm going to scroll along here until his heel hits the ground, move a couple frames ahead, and then change heel roll and ball roll to 0 so that he lands on his toe, snaps the toe down. And I could even actually change that, instead of 2 frames ahead, I could change that to 1 frame ahead, like that. So he lands on his heel and snaps down. And I'll do the other foot, move to frame 16, change those to 0, snap the toe down. And the other thing is, when he snaps his toe down, as you can see, he on the foot with the red, as he pulls back, he's already starting to come up on his toes. We want him to stay on his toes, or on his foot, as long as possible. So his heel lands, snaps down, then you pull back and then come up on your toes. So I'll do that for the other foot too. Keep that heel on the ground as he pulls back. So now it's going to look a lot better. Okay? So now with that being done, I'll go ahead and do some in-betweens for the arms. As you can see, they just kind of sway back and forth. And what we're going to do is we're going to give them a little kind of, how do you say this? Just going to kind of, it's like drag, I guess. The word will come to me here, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the shoulder and the elbow, and as he's swinging forward, I'm just going to rotate these a little bit back so they kind of have a little sway. And then as this rotates backwards, I'm going to rotate this one a little bit up. So as you can see, he kind of has a little kind of give and go. And I'll do the same thing on the other arm. So this one's coming backwards, so I'm going to rotate a little bit up, kind of give a little drag to it. And this one will be back. And that looks a little bit better. And he looks pretty stiff right now because he's not doing a whole lot other than his arms and his legs moving. So let's give him some up and down motion. Okay, and this is a little tricky, but if you can pull it off, it really makes things much easier. So I'm just going to grab the hips and I'm going to move those. Open up my Windows Animation Editor Graph Editor. Move this over here. And we're going to go with translate Y because that's up and down. I hit F to center this in my view like you'd center anything else in Maya. And I'm going to set a key on frame 10, so I have 1, 2, 3 keys. I'm going to select those, hold Shift and select the right handles, then hit W to move, and with my middle mouse button in the center, I'm going to pull down. And as you can see, it creates this wave like this. And he's moving very, very little. So I'm going to pull down more and increase the curve. Zoom out, increase the curve more until he starts doing up and down motion. And actually, that looks like he may be going the wrong way. So instead of pulling down, I'm going to pull up. There we go. Hit F again. And as you can see, now he's got some up and down motion. He's really starting to get a nice looking run. Looks great. So I just created, and now this is really cool because with 3 keys I only created this curve, right? And now I want to do the same, use the same concept for the spine. So I'm going to shift select the 4 spine controllers, set a middle key, so I have 0, 10, and 20. And this time, I want the spine to rotate on this axis, which is the Z. So this time I need to do multiple axes at one time, so I'll select Rotate Z, hold Control to select multiple ones, Rotate Z, and Rotate Z. Hit F to bring them in my view, Shift select them, or I'm sorry, just drag select, and then hold Shift and grab the right controllers. And again, I'll pull up. And as you can see now, his spine has a little rotation. And I'll try it the other way and see how that looks, and it doesn't look as good. So now his spine's got some rotation there. And I'll do the exact same thing for his head. Now when the spine compresses, his head's actually going to do the opposite. Head and neck will do the opposite of what the lower spine will do. So I'm going to set a key at frame 10, Control select the Rotate Z's, hit F to bring it in my view, select, Shift select the right handles, hit W, and I'll pull down. Test it both ways, and actually, see now his head's got rotation on it, and it's like kind of balanced. Looks pretty good. Alright, so that's all we need to do for that. So looking at this run cycle, that's kind of a basic run cycle. It looks pretty good. It would look great from a side view, but when I rotate around to the front view, it looks really bad. It looks really stiff and really rigid because we've only spent time on the side and we haven't spent time on the front. So we need to do that. So I'm going to go into my front view, oops, hit the space bar, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab his foot controller here, and as his foot lands on the ground, I'm just going to move that to the center. And I'll do the same thing, and he has these, yeah, I'll do the same thing for the other foot when it hits the ground. So when that hits the ground on frame 15, I'm just going to move that to the center. So as you can see, we already start to have some better looking movement. It's not so rigid. And the next thing, we've got these knee controllers up here, and if you rotate those, it rotates his knee. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm actually going to as he brings his knee around like this, I'm going to swing his knee out at frame 0. And I just copied that frame to the last frame. And then I'll do the same thing for the other knee. So at frame 10, this knee would be rotated out. So as you can see, his knees are already kind of looking better. And I'm just gonna, let's see. Looks pretty good. Now we need to tweak the hips, because his hips will rotate from side to side as he runs. And his hips is this little starfish looking controller. So for his hips, I'm going to do the same thing with the animation editor. I just hit 5 so I can see his hips. And I'll go Windows Animation Editor, Graph Editor. And this is rotate Y. So I'm going to select rotate Y, hit F, select this, hold shift, whoops, hold shift and select the right handles, then do this. Actually, I think this is not going to work the way I want it to work. I think I need to make a different curve. Yeah, I need to make a different curve here. So I'm actually just going to keep this. I think I need to make a curve like this or something. I don't know. Let's not do that. Let's keep it much simpler. So as his right leg comes up, his hip is going to rotate up. And I'll copy that and paste it on the last frame. And as his other leg comes up, his hip will rotate up. Just like that. We'll keep it really, really simple. And now his spine will do the opposite of what his hips are doing. So I'm just going to select his spine controllers. 1, 2, 3, 4. And since on this frame his hips rotated up, I'm going to rotate his spine this way. And on this frame, his spine's rotated this way. I'm just going to match it using the grid. And I'll copy this frame and paste it here. So as you can see now, his spine rotates, and his head will do the opposite of what the spine's doing. And then we should be done. So I'm just going to, on this frame, rotate his head in. Copy that. And paste on frame 20. And then on this frame, his head will be rotated the other way. So now he looks much more interesting from the front, and he looks interesting from the side. Looks pretty good. So now I have a pretty cool looking run animation. And yeah.